Hello and welcome to another episode of the Lupus LA Your Story, Our Fight podcast, brought to you by our good friends at GSK Pharmaceuticals. This is a super special episode for me because I get to interview one of my dearest friends and superstar. She's just a total superstar. I'm going to give you your formal introduction, Trisha.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Yes, absolutely. This is Tricia McCrone. Trisha was a producer on the Jenny Jones Show, the Queen Latifah Show, the Sharon Osbourne Show, the Tyra Banks Show. She helped create The Entertainer with Wayne Newton, and that's where she is now. She is the chief publicist for Mr. Las Vegas himself, Wayne Newton.
Yeah, go Wayne!
Go Wayne. She runs she created this amazing Wayne Newton Museum at Casa de Shenandoah, and she is just a jack of all trades, a fabulous person, and a lupus patient. And that's actually how we met, was through our mutual friend, Howie D of the Backstreet Boys, who introduced us right after you were diagnosed, right?
Yes, it was in New York City we're going to age ourselves. The Black Blue release was that
That's right.
2000 or 99 or something ridiculous like that. I mean, how is it that we didn't age?
It was 2000, and the Backstreet Boys had took that plane around to all the continents. And Howie said, I want you to meet somebody who just got diagnosed with lupus. And I think he had met Wayne at an event, and that's how the whole thing got connected.
Yeah, it was the Radio Music Awards, and the Backstreet Boys were hosting it. It was in Vegas that year. And so the crazy thing is that the day I got diagnosed, my sister, I used to make fun of boy bands, believe it or not. And she loved the Backstreet Boys, and I didn't get what lupus was really when I got diagnosed. So it's the next day, and my two questions when I got diagnosed were, can I lay in the sun and am I going to get fat? So obviously I had my vision of things was a little bit skewed towards vanity. And so my sister set up in, a dark room in her house, and she saw this thing about the Backstreet Boys, and it was going through all of their trials and tribulations. It was talking about Howie's sister that passed away from lupus, and my sister started doing research. A few days, and of course I start crying because she passed away, and I'm like, I'm gonna die, not understanding really what is happening. And so she did all of her research, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Wayne gets invited to do a skit with the Backstreet Boys. And, he'd been doing 2 shows a night. He said, I don't know if I can do it. If I can. And she goes, no, you have to do it because we have to get involved with lupus charities for Trisha. And so he walked into the shoot saying, who's Howie? Okay, because of course, not knowing which one he was. And Howie's like, it's me, sir, and right off the bat, she said, my sister-in-law is the most outgoing, fun person, and she got diagnosed with lupus. And since then, she doesn't leave the house. She's depressed. She thinks her life is over. And anything I can do to help your charity, let me know. And so, of course, then came Howie calling me, and then he invited me to New York. We had met up, and then he invited me to New York, where I meet incredible Adam, and I call you my lupus sponsor because everything that I had heard, you hear about other actors, especially back then, no one was talking about lupus. So it was, this person's family member passed away. This celebrity's person is dying. Or it was mainly people that passed away. And so I thought I had a death sentence, and it mentally, messes with you. And you told me you had lupus. I just knew you were, a big deal in the lupus community. And so we immediately became friends, and you became, I always say, my lupus sponsor, because here was somebody living this incredible life who you were really teaching me how you can have a completely normal life with just understanding your body, and that there's no reason to sit around and woe is me. And, hopefully I've kind of passed that on as it goes, but I don't know what I would have done without you. I really don't. So, because you saved me.
As I'm sure this audience can tell, when you meet Trish, she just, is electrifying and fabulous. And so we bonded right away. And what was interesting was Howie didn't have an event coming up, but Lupus LA had an event coming up. It was our second event that we were doing at the home of Marla and Bud Paxson at the time. And it was this beautiful outdoor event. And really one of our goals when we started Lupus LA was use the power of Hollywood to spread awareness. Because like you really didn't hear much about lupus in the late 90s, early 2000s. And when I moved to Los Angeles, that was really part of my mission with the organization. Mm-hmm. And so Howie performed at our first event. And when you and I met, we said, let's get Wayne to perform at this second event in 2001. And the stars aligned. Wayne did this amazing performance. Howie was in town. The two of them got on stage. We got so much press because you had Wayne Newton and a Backstreet Boy singing together. It was, it was really incredible. And you were really, you're the driving force behind all things Wayne Newton, and he's been incredible to us. And I think you were really a big part of helping us launch our push to get lupus out through the power of Hollywood. And, so I attribute all that back to good old Howie and his spirit of always wanting to do the right thing and help people. And, but tell me, let's go back a little bit. Tell me what led to your diagnosis.
Well, the first thing that happened, I think I was about 27 or 28, and going way back, I now know that when I was a little girl and I was in dance and everything, when I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, a suburb of Cleveland, Ohio, that when it would get rainy or snowy, I would cry and I would have to slide down our stairs in our house, in my little school uniform, like on my butt, because it hurt to physically walk down the stairs. And I had to get help to get up on the school bus, that first big step. And they said, oh, it's juvenile arthritis, but we think it could be something she's just going to grow out of, that kind of a thing. And, and then I had other little autoimmune things, like Epstein-Barr and all those sort of things, and endometriosis. And so around when I was 27 or 28, I was in Hawaii, and I was a sun worshiper. Now I'm a spray tan, ruin every sheet I've ever owned worshiper. But back then I would just put a raft in the sun in the Vegas summer in my pool, and I would just get tan. And so all of a sudden I'm there and I get this rash everywhere. And I've never seen anything like it. I've never experienced any kind of a skin condition or anything like that. And so I was like, well, this is strange. And I went back to Vegas and it went away and I didn't think anything of it. Came back again and I went to a doctor and they said, well, let's try changing, you change your perfume, you change your makeup, you change everything, and nothing worked. And she said, I think you have lupus. And I said, I don't even know what that is, but it sounds terrible. So I'm sure I don't have it because I'm so active and I'm going out every night and all that kind of stuff. And so I kept putting it off and getting blood tests and them telling me, my ANA was a high level. And they kept telling me, you really should see a rheumatologist. And I kept saying, no, because I'm fine. By the time I got everything back, I felt fine. Right. And so when I was about to turn 30, this is after 2 or 3 years of being diagnosed without really being diagnosed, being told that's probably what I have. It got to the point where I would go to pick up my dog bowl in the morning to feed my dogs, and the pain would just collapse, the headaches. And at first I thought that I was getting depressed I was going to be 30. Right. And so, maybe this is all crazy. Maybe I need to see a psychiatrist or something. But, it turned out that I went back in, the rash came back. And then my doctor said, listen, your numbers are off the charts. I'm making you an appointment with a rheumatologist. And so that night, my sister, Wayne's wife, Kat, is a total mom. And so she researched the top lupus doctors, rheumatologists in the country. And at the time, it was between Bever Hahn at UCLA and Daniel Wallace, who we love, who is incredible, Dr. Wallace. And so she thought maybe I'd feel more comfortable with a woman. So Kat reached out to Bever Hahn, and she wasn't taking new patients because she was mainly in research at the time. Mm-hmm. And before I even knew what was happening, my sister did this without me knowing. She said, we're going to LA in the morning. You're going to a doctor. I was on Wayne's plane the two of us flying to LA, to UCLA. Like I'm thinking, oh, I dressed kind of cute. Maybe I'll see some friends, again, not getting it. And, and right out, she did all her exams and Dr. Hahn said, well, you have lupus. You definitely have lupus. And of course I asked my two really stupid questions. And it wasn't until probably a few months down the road that I really understood. And it was after really meeting you, because that was just a few months after that I started to understand that there is a correlation between my body and what I'm doing and how I'm feeling and stress and everything else and my flares. And so I would be the person that in the beginning that would say, oh, well, I'm just going to lead my life like I normally would. And then, as you know, our bodies hit the wall and we just kind of shut down. And then I would be completely shut down and like, oh my, I'm never going to have a boyfriend again. I'm never going to, like the woe is me.
Right.
And I was in that cycle of feeling okay, then terribly sick, then feeling and not realizing your body says sleep, sleep. You're just the little cues, which really you taught me.
I remember, when we first met and we would come visit you in Vegas, and sometimes it would be just a go weekend. And sometimes it was, I've got to sleep until, you had a real sort of, I would say, fight with yourself about how to manage your lupus. I think because first of all, forget the fun we were having, but it was your job at the time with Wayne was full steam ahead and constant and
working every night, 2 shows a night, and and greeting people afterwards and doing the whole thing. Yeah, it was very much a high
smoky casinos at the time, and it was I saw you work, and it was I think that, and there's a lot of pressure in your job to entertain. Always somebody's coming to town.
In the dressing room after the show, I do my 15 minutes.
Right. But it's always, but I remember sort of, that, every weekend, some friend or some friend of a friend would be coming to town, and you had the keys to the castle in Vegas. And so I think you felt this pressure that you had to show everybody the great time in Vegas. And I think that, but then when the crash would happen, it could be lights out for the weekend, or more, or weeks, or 2 weeks. Right. And so what sort of transitioned you into, okay, I have to have more balance and I have to.
You were a very big part.
Well, besides me.
I'm going to say that, but also, and I am the type of person that comes right out. I went to therapy, because I was looking at lupus as I'm going to have this great time. And then when I fall, and that's fine. I'll just be gone. But then I would be depressed so it was like this crazy cycle. And it was like I was in a thing of feeling sorry for myself. And it was a situation where I remember seeing this doctor and him saying, did you do anything to yourself to make you get lupus? I said, no. Is there anything that you can do to just say you never have lupus, to make it just snap your fingers and go away? No. But what I can control is that roller coaster that I was on. And I started to look at, I look back at that time, and as you know, it was like any club, any show, and I could just show up, and we had like carte blanche, everything was taken care of. We'd have the best seats, the best everything. And I was surrounded by a lot of people that I thought were my great friends. And then I realized once I wasn't friends with the owner of, back then, like Rum Jungle or the Foundation Room or whatever it was, and I wasn't getting everybody in for free and all the free drinks. And I was listening to myself saying, oh, I got to stay home. I don't feel great. I feel like I'm catching a cold or blah, 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 blah. And, I noticed that my phone stopped ringing. And I think that also, kind of then played into a bit of a depression. And I really got to the point where listening to you and just listening to myself and saying, do I want to keep feeling like crap when I can do minor things to fix it? And it wasn't so much as, this huge overhaul. It's just realizing I can't go out all the time. I can't, listening to your body is that key, and also your mental state. And being more aware of, I hate to say it now, of course we all live like this, but germs. And things like that. I remember, doing a meet and greet with Wayne after the show, and a woman sneezed on me, and I'm like, there goes my next 2 weeks. And there went my next 2 weeks, because at the time I was on, I think I was on Myfortic or Cellcept one. I was on one of them. So of course I had absolutely no resistance to anything. So it was just a matter of you having to realize I didn't do anything to get this. And, and I can let it destroy me, which I kind of was, or let the fact that I have to lead a different life now. And the people who are my true friends will come along. I was so kind of stuck in that kind of it girl at the time mentality that I found it hard to just say, you know what, you're not calling me when I feel good. Guess what? I'm not going to be calling you, type of a thing, kind of putting boundaries on people and putting boundaries on myself. And it really did weed out who my real friends are. And as you know, we can go, I consider you one of my dearest friends I've ever had in my entire life, but we could go, 6 months without talking. And to me, that means nothing, because we are just right where we always were. We know where we stand with each other. And it's a wonderful feeling to know who the people you can count on are.
Well, I appreciate that. We should not go 6 months without talking.
I know we never do,
but that's true. And I think you really do. A diagnosis like this that really forces you to change your lifestyle really does. And we've talked a lot on this show about support systems, and you really do realize how to build the support system that you need to create the healthiest lifestyle for you. We're going to take a quick break. And then we're going to come back and talk about all things post lifestyle change for Tricia McCrone. So we'll be right back.
Lupus LA provides the lupus community with a variety of educational opportunities through patient conferences, webinars, Facebook Live chats, and one-on-one support to the lupus community. Visit our website at lupusla.org.
Welcome back to the Your Story, Our Fight podcast. We're talking to Tricia McCrone, and we were just talking sort of about that time in your life when you sort of switched and decided, okay, I'm going to put my health first. And now tell me, once that occurred, I know you're super committed to helping others, and I know Wayne is the same way. And so is that sort of when, I know you've always been that way, but did that sort of change your outlook on lupus patients in general, and that sort of realization?
In the very beginning, what we didn't mention is that first concert at the Paxson's, that first, a charity event that you put together that Wayne went to, I said, Wayne, just say it's family member, don't say it's me, because I was worried about not getting hired in television at the time. There was such a, and you heard all of these things in the background, like, like Seal, Michael Jackson, like all these names that they might have lupus, but no one wants to admit it, no one. And so there was this weird stigma, and I fell into it. And then once I started to balance my life, and I'm like, why on earth would I not be trying to help others once I kind of figured myself out? That's like, why not help others? And what the other thing is I want to make really clear is how fortunate that we were at, now, Dr. Hahn stopped, taking patients, stopped, doing any patient work at all, only research. And so I switched to Dr. Wallace, and love him. And, the one thing that, a lot of people don't have are a Dr. Wallace or a Dr. Hahn. And so you look at the statistics, and that I'm rare being a Caucasian woman, and you're extremely rare being a man, that it's like, that a lot of the people that are in tough shape are a lot of the minorities that maybe don't, I hate to say it, have access to a Dr. Wallace. And it's not because of money or because of anything. It's because of the fact that a lot of doctors really, I don't think, are 100% sure of the diagnosis. It's very hard, as we all know. And so so I felt like I just wanted to start talking and wanted to start saying, because I've never been other than that little section of time, I refuse to be a woe is me. Like, it's just, and I understand I got in that for a second, but I understand how people can. For me, rather than being taken down by lupus, I'm like, I want to live my best life with lupus.
I think you make a really good point, and I know one of the things, especially recently, Lupus LA has been focused on is access, because we're hearing even from the pharmaceutical companies like GSK, who have medications available that could potentially help a lot of people. They're having a hard time getting to the doctors to get to the patients. Yes. And so we've really tried to use our digital footprint to expand that access and show people, hey, make sure you ask your doctor about this medication. Make sure you ask about this blood test. And I really do think that telling your story, and I know we sort of publicly told your story at one of our galas, and I think it made a really big difference. And I think, and I think, listen, I think that it's very brave, because especially in the profession that you're in, with being able to kind of come out and have that conversation with people has really opened up a lot of doors.
Thank you. And I will say what's been extremely nice is that, because I have been very open about it, is that I constantly get calls from friends that are like, oh, a friend of mine or a relative of my friend thinks that they have lupus. What should they do? That kind of a thing. And so, and that means a lot. And I'm like, if they need someone to talk to, I'm here, just like what you did to me. If they need someone, I'm here. And there's a way to, live your life. I used to think all these horrible things, like I would never get married and all that. And I look around, look, you have 2 beautiful children. Nicole Paxton, who also has lupus, is expecting her 2nd child. So it's something where you can, with,
and you have a fabulous husband that we went to this amazing wedding, and Billy is, we got to give Billy a shout out, because I know that was a real.
Do I look really shishi? I'm in his chair.
Yes, he has a fabulous chair. I don't know what he looks like in that chair, but
no,
but I do, but
important.
Yeah, well, I think that was a really big. We've talked a lot on this show about relationships, and I know for a long time that was a real question. There were lots of ins and outs of different relationships, but I think you and I talked
relationships with me, yes. And so
I was saying that in a nice way, but you and I had a lot of conversations about that, because we were both similar for a long time, and before I met Lori in Vegas, just as a coincidence. But I do think that that's a big question for a lot of, especially young lupus patients, and I think sometimes you're in and out of relationships that have nothing to do with lupus, but it always sort of in your back of your mind becomes a question.
You almost kind of say, oh, well, the minute I'm in a flare, the minute I can't go out and I have to cancel a date at the last minute, they're just going to leave me. All of those things come into play. And the bottom line is that if they're the type of person that would do that, they're not the type of person you should be with anyway, and we're both very lucky, with you, with Lori, and me with my wonderful husband, Billy, that, that there are days where I'm just like, I got to sleep. I have to take a 4-hour nap, that's just what it is. And they understand it and respect it.
And what changed? When you started dating Billy, how did you know it was different? How did you know that he was in it for the long haul and the lupus and the ups and downs of all your medical stuff?
Well, one of my sort of things that happened because of lupus is that it attacked my vestibular function. So I lost complete balance. My crystals came out, and I had to go through months and months of learning how to walk again, being strapped to the ceiling and all of that. And so we are just dating, and we live in different cities at the time. And we're going to spend Valentine's Day together. And we're in Hawaii. And I wake up and I go to stand up, and all of a sudden my eyes are darting, and I don't know up, down, left, right. I'm getting sick everywhere. And here, this guy has planned all these incredible excursions, because we both are, love to do outdoorsy stuff. And I am going to be canceling all of them and being in a hotel room. And you know what? He went and found me ginger juice. He was doing anything to try, to settle my stomach and everything. And he never left my side. He had told me he was falling in love with me before that. And it was that was on that trip after how he reacted to, the fact that, you're just dating someone and they have to, escort you to the ladies' room because you can't stand on your own, that it's, and it didn't scare him. It just, he was there and he was right next to me. And that was the first time truth be told, that I told him I loved him, because it was like, I knew that it wasn't, because a lot of times long distance, everything when you're together, everything's great. Well, all of a sudden things weren't great. And we were, at this beautiful hotel in Hawaii and resort. And here I am stuck in the room for 3 days. So that, when you find that, it's, you realize and you hold on to it.
Yeah, no, that's I think a very illustrative story about what a lot of people have experienced. You realize because inevitably, no matter how good you feel for how long a period of time, you can only hold it together completely for so long. And the truth, the reality of it is, and it's intense, I think. So tell me, so when your friends call you and somebody says a friend of a friend has lupus, what do you think's different now about hearing that diagnosis than 20 years ago when you were diagnosed?
There's a lot of people out there talking about it, and like I said, when I was diagnosed, I had no idea what it was. It just sounded kind of funny, and it sounded and when I did know about it, it was just people that passed away, no one living with it. And so it's not a taboo anymore. You have, Selena Gomez, which, I think was huge, her coming out, and the Seal. And I know that having conversation with Michael Jackson talking obviously a long time ago, and him telling me about his lupus. And so it was, just the fact that it's out there and people are talking about it. And then, even with the coronavirus, because of what I just call Plaquenil.
Right.
I just chloroquine. Everyone's like, oh, you get to be on it. You have lupus. I'm like, well, I'm one of the people that can't take it. But, all of a sudden it was so cool because I could have access to the supposed at the time possible miracle drug. It was like people wanted me to share drugs or something. And but it wasn't something that's taboo. And people are also understanding that everybody's cases are different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's true too. And I think there's so many advances in the medical world about it, but it's again, it's about filtering that information down. And COVID in some respects has shined a much bigger light on all autoimmune illnesses, and lupus in particular through the Plaquenil world. But even beyond that, just, who's high risk now for COVID, and you went through a COVID battle yourself.
Enough. It's no joke. And as a lupus patient, that we deal with every day. Some days, obviously a lot worse than others, but we deal with the pains in the migraine. At least I do. Pains in the migraines, and I know you do as well. And it was a pain and a headache that nothing would help. I just laid in a scalding hot shower and cried, and it was and it was just one of those things where I don't want to get it again. So, I know that I am, my months are up for my Pfizer booster in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to be the first day I'm eligible. I'm there. But, and that was another thing I questioned. I really did my research on, is the vaccine safe? Mm-hmm. And and everything that I found is yes. And and after having COVID, I will take a vaccine every day of the week to never have to go through that again. So.
Yeah, no, that's a really good message, because I think there is a lot of confusion for autoimmune patients who are on all these other medications, and I think talking to your rheumatologist and figuring that out and coming to the decision yourself that this is safe and it is effective, and beyond safe, it's necessary for autoimmune patients. Yeah. It really is critical. All right, so tell me
as well. And he was my stepson, I call him my son, and they were both asymptomatic. They only tested because I was so sick. So, and I don't think that that's a coincidence that, I was the one that got terribly sick because, I'm compromised. So, it pretty much, now with everything that's going on with even the breakthrough, Delta variant and all of that, that it's like the fact that I have those 2 vaccines, without them, I would be very scared.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So tell me, what is next for Tricia McCrone and the Wayne Newton Empire, and where are you guys headed?
Well, I'm kind of a part-timer, just a helper now, because I travel a lot in my, I'm married now, I have
Yes, of course.
So, but Wayne is opening at the Flamingo for the first time since the shutdown in March of 2020. He's opening at the Flamingo on the 23rd of September. So we will definitely be there. And so everyone should go check us out there. I'm there whenever I'm in town. Of course, I'm there at the shows at night. And and just hopefully being able to reconnect with people as the virus, hopefully people starts weeding down and we can sort of rejoin life a little bit more. I know I miss seeing my friend Adam and finally having my 50th birthday.
That's right. It's been postponed, which those of you who, if you ever have a chance to go to a Trisha McCrone birthday party, I highly recommend it.
This one's going to be epic too, because now it will be the 2nd anniversary of my 50th birthday. So
I hear that. I love it. Well, I'm there, and I thank you so much for joining the podcast and telling your story.
I'm honored you asked me.
Of course. All right. Thanks, Tricia.
Thank you.
On behalf of the entire team at Lupus LA, we thank you for joining the Your Story, Our Fight podcast. Please tune in, spread the word, and come back for more inspiring lupus stories. I'm your host, Adam Selkowitz, wishing you good health, and to always remember, your story is our fight.